Welcome back. You're watching the Front Row with me, Abby Agina. Our discussion this evening, we are focusing on the unemployment crisis in the country. To get part of this discussion, you can join us on our Twitter handles at KTN News KE. You can also tweet me at Agina Abby. And you can also share with us your questions on our Slido platform, where the event code is the Front Row. We shall be getting to your questions, and you can also join us on Zoom in case you have any comments or observations you'd like to share on this very particular topic. Well, let's get back to our discussion. We were working on how do we move forward, especially and also assessing how the pandemic has affected the economy. Madam Jacqueline, I'd like to hear from you. From your interactions, from the research data you are coming across, how would you describe how the pandemic has affected the youth and especially the issues around unemployment in the country?
Okay, thank you. I think there was a report that was released by ILO on youth and COVID, and one of the areas they were looking into was issues of employment.
Yeah.
And the report showed that 1 in 6 of youth have reported to have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. And that's a very high number. And one of the attributing factors to that is policies by most companies, last one in, first one out. So of course you find that a lot of young people who get into the organizations get into late or as the last people. So when it comes to issues of global crises or pandemics like what we are facing now, then you find they're the first ones to be affected. Also, what was, has been very keen to pick out from the report is that the male population or demographic has been adversely affected. And that has got so many ripple effects in the society as a whole. When you're talking about issues of crime and young people engaging in crime, we have a higher population of young people, and most of them being men. So there are huge ripple effects in terms of the family setup, in terms of society, crime and issues of stability within the community. So those are just some of the things that are keen, and I think the governments should be looking into more seriously, particularly in this time.
All right. Madam Jacqueline, you raised very pertinent points there on how this unemployment is also affecting issues to do with the crime rate in the country. And I'd like to pick Dr. Muntua's mind around looking at the ILO report that we did hear, what Madam Jacqueline did raise. What does this make you feel as a leader of a country where we are still yet to address a very pertinent issue around unemployment?
I think, Jacqueline is right when she talks about the effects of COVID, when she mentions that a lot of our young people now are taking any job. You'll go to a restaurant, you'll find a waiter serving you, you'll find that that waiter has ICT skills, or that waiter trained to be a nurse, or that waiter trained to be a civil engineer, but they're doing whatever it takes to earn a living because the marketplace is closed. As a leader, I'm worried, and one of the reasons that I've decided to run for president is because I think a time has come for us to agree among ourselves that Kenya's computer is frozen. Computer ya Kenya imehang, and there's need for a reset. There's a reset in terms of the way we do things, the way we process information, and the way that information goes. My good friend talked about Kazi Mtaani, for example. And you see, for me, I know that President Uhuru Kenyatta are trying to pump money so to drive consumerism, which I believe in. But you don't get young people coming and just slashing. It's very defeatist. It reminds me of when we used to misbehave in high school, and the teachers would make us dig a hole, and then after we dug a hole, they tell us to fill it. Because you slash that grass, you come back after 1 week, the grass has grown up again. So what Kazi Mtaani should be used is for capital things. For example, I would use Kazi Mtaani like what we are doing in Machakos, for example, where we are actually building a road with cobblestones. We would use it to build toilets, use part of the money, build toilets so that our mothers don't have to close their eyes and squat in the middle of the road, by the side of the road, as they do all over this country. A big shame. in this country. So we would do things that at least even the young person would walk by 6 months later, 2 years later, and they'd say, nilijenga hiyo building, nilijenga hiyo shule, nilijenga hiyo. Lakini si kukatakata bushes and all that. Now, when you look at this country, it's all about the economy. We can talk all we want. We can talk about solutions for the youth, education and skills. It's important. But we need to grow this economy. Unless we do something radical, but like changing the type of leadership we have so that everybody in this country is talking about money, we are going to be stuck where we are at the end of the day. So politics, and as we talk about political economy, has to be included in the solution for our young people not having jobs. And that goes hand in hand with corruption. A lot of young people tell me they cannot get a job unless they know somebody. And so they call me, they say, Mutua, I cannot get a job unless somebody puts in a word for me. So, because there's so much corruption, you have to know somebody. So can you put in a word for me? So they're asking me to participate in the corruption to get them a job, because that is the status of how things run in this country. So we need to eliminate corruption and teach our people that the reason we are poor, the reason we have dilapidated roads, the reason doing business in Kenya is very difficult is because we've got an institutionalized corrupt system that actually rewards the corrupt. The politician who steals the most, the politician who amasses the most majority of wealth from corruption, which means that young people are unemployed, is the one people say, huyo ndio nataka kuwe kiongozi. That is the perfect leader. Huyo ndio anaweza. Huyo ndio ameweza kutafuta pesa, ndio anaweza. So it is a matter of changing the politics in this country, but also changing the mindset of our people.
Thank you so much, Governor. And let me take it now to Mr. Gishinga. Well, out of this pandemic, and clearly what Governor Mutua is saying is that cases of young people trying to diversify, someone studied IT, but they're working in a restaurant, or someone who did driving is doing work in a construction site. All these point to young people who are still resilient. They are looking forward to better times ahead. But clearly, Mr. Gishinga, from what ILO is saying is that some of the jobs that have been lost under COVID, some of the sectors might never bounce back. Some of the very important industries might never rehire people as they used to, the numbers that they used to work with, because of the technology disruption as well. Well, is this a point of reflection? Is this a time for us to look at what other sectors should we look at moving forward?
Indeed, it is a time for reflection. And when we think about unemployment, we need to start differentiating the different types of unemployment. We have what is called the demand-deficient unemployment, which is what is happening right now during COVID, when there is very little demand for goods and services, and therefore businesses have to shut down and they have to lay off people. The only way to recover from that perspective is to reopen the economy and to stimulate demand. But there's what is called the structural type of unemployment, which was there even before COVID, and it's far more lethal. And this really comes about when you have a mismatch between what the skills the workers have and the skills that industries demand. And sometimes you can have a fundamental mismatch. In Nairobi, it's not uncommon to find an Uber driver who has an MBA in strategy. It's not uncommon to go to a restaurant, as the governor says, and find somebody who has IT skills. So to fix structural unemployment, you need to have a partnership between government, the business community, and the universities. And if I was to take an example, let's say, look at a county such as Narok. I would expect Masai Mara University to sit down with the county government of Narok and also the business community, the Chamber of Commerce of Narok.
Correct.
And they should be able to tell Masai Mara University These are the courses that we need your graduates to have, whether it's in tourism, whether it's in hospitality. I think that partnership is what has been lacking, and that's why we have this structural unemployment.
And Mr. Gishinga, when we have this structural unemployment carrying on, what are some of the dangers? Because, like you're saying, we have young people who have gone through and got some of the best education in the land, but they can't fit in.
The effects are quite profound. Number one, there is loss of financial wealth because of lack of an income for a long time. That feeds into a poor, low self-esteem for the person concerned. It leads into mental health and can even lead into suicide. About 45,000 people commit suicide globally because of unemployment. So it's not something that's trivial, and it's something that we have to apply a high level of urgency to resolve it.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, Madam Jacqueline. Should we be worried?
We definitely should be worried. I completely agree with Gishinga, because in the same report that I was referencing, they also speak about mental health and how the young people now are more likely to suffer from mental health issues because of loss of income or lower income. Because for those who haven't lost jobs, the situation that has then arisen is most people are being sent on unpaid leave. So, they are staying home, they have families to take care of, but they have no way of taking care of them. And of course, that takes a toll on somebody's mental health. And then when we speak about the relevance of the curriculum that we have, especially in Kenya, I think there is such a huge gap there that has been there for far too many years, and it's about time we stop talking about it and do something about it. Earlier, Governor Mutua was talking about planning and the importance of that. But when we talk about planning, we can't talk about planning and leave out young people. They're the future of this generation, they're the future of this country, and they need to be part and parcel of the planning processes of this nation. Whether it's curriculum development, whether it's review of policies, or development of the policies themselves. So there's a huge role that the young people can play, but the question is, are they being given the opportunities or the platforms at all to speak up and present their views? I think the answer is no.
All right. Governor Mutua, the skills mismatch is a hot issue in the country, and clearly looking at what fellow panelists, Mr. Gishinga and Madam Jacqueline, have actually captured in their comments is that we're suffering from structural unemployment. Are there practical solutions to this, and have you been able to implement any of this in Machakos?
Yes, when I was listening to Madam Jacqueline talk about Gishinga, talking about the problem of people getting jobs and also mental issues as a result of being unemployed, it's very clear. For example, we joke in Machakos, I tell people that even young men are not even able to get married. They can't even go on a date, because when you find a lady you want to get married to and you say hi, she looks at you up and down and says, "Aye," because hauna kitu, hauna pesa. No. So maisha inakuwa ngumu, because maisha inakuwa kama una pesa, nani atakuongelesha? Because life is difficult and nobody wants to get into difficulty. So this structural system that has been set up, that Gishinga talked about it, Jacqueline talked about it, it all comes down to not only planning but having the right drivers. So let's take, for example, you are driving a car, and the driver that is supposed to take you, let's say, to Kisumu, yeye anapiga shortcut zingine na hajui vizuri Kisumu ni wapi, because yeye kazi yake si udereva wa kupeleka watu Kisumu. Unaelewa? So we need the right people on the steering wheel. So we need people who understand what it means when you enable businesses to employ one or two people. There's an example I like giving. I was educated in the US, and I spent some years in the US, and I studied organization of businesses and economic flows, both micro and macro, in the US and Latin Australia, and also for my doctorate. And you find that if you really want to grow an economy, you have to create a system whereby people feel there's money in circulation. When you create a system where people feel money in the soil, and that's where Mr. Gishinga talked about the T-bills. When government is releasing money through all these ventures so that credit is easily available to all, you find that now somebody will go and buy mafuta ya kupika ama kitu ya kupika. Akienda kununua, atanunua moja, anunue mbili, because there is money. All of a sudden, the shopkeeper realizes mafuta inaenda sana. Ataitisha order ya more mafuta from the factory. The factory realizes mafuta inatakikana. So the factory will call the farmer who produced the raw material ya mafuta. Raw material farmer employ 3 more people ndio waweze ku-enhance hiyo mafuta. Sasa as we go on, huyu mfanyikazi ataona ya kwamba needs more mafuta because wale watu wameandikwa na farmer are also buying the mafuta, and ataandika mtu mwingine mmoja who is buying the mafuta, who in turn now they need more mafuta from the factory, who now employ 5 more people who also buying mafuta. So money starts circulating. And that is the trick when you talk about controlling the interest rates so that people feel there's money in the market. Give you an example. I lived in Australia for a while. And when there was a downturn of the economy a few years ago, what did the Australian government do? They gave every household, I believe it was $10,000. That's about 1 million shillings. Kenya shillings. Kila nyumba ikapewa 10,000 shillings, and it was told your pesa isikae kwa bank, enda ukaitumie. So those people got out, they went and bought television sets, they bought clothes, they bought mafuta, they went on holiday. What happened? Money circulated, industry boomed, people are kept working. So at times we have to think about initiatives that really are meant to help our people. So we have to think broadly. We have to get out of the colonial mentality ya kuchunga pesa saa zote. At times government spending money and giving money targeted to wananchi can actually grow the economy.
All right, Dr. Well, remember to be part of this conversation. You can tweet at KTNewsKE. Our hashtag is the front row. We'll be opening the lines to take your questions for our panelists. We'll also be taking your questions on Twitter as well and our Slido platform in a short while, just to keep this conversation alive. Well, let me now take us to another level of discussion here on this particular area of focus. Well, Dr. Mutua, you've captured the very interesting analogy of just what it takes to have our economy on its feet. And from you, Mr. Gishinga, we've seen the stimulus package that did come on board. And when you look at the trickle-down effect, are we able to measure this? Are we able to see a change in the economy? Or is it simply a wrong government initiative?
Well, the effect was very limited. And that's because we leaned too much on fiscal policy, which involves tax cuts, and the idea that once you have tax cuts, people start spending. But that doesn't quite happen, because think of somebody who has been laid off. There is no tax cut there because his income is zero. So fiscal policy in a time of extreme crisis doesn't work. What we need to have in this country is a monetary stimulus. And that's what Dr. Mutua has talked about. Really putting money in the pockets of Kenyans and stimulating demand. That's the only way to get out of it. If you only look at just the tax cuts, then the point is you will not see any much traction, and that's what has been happening right now.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gishinga. Well, like I did mention, we want to take a look at what you're asking on our Slido platform. And well, you can join me on our Super Wall here. Well, we have a question from Wanaoni Michael to our panelists. He's saying the government has failed to fulfill its manifesto of creating 300,000 jobs per year for the youth. The youth who have trained in various sectors are now jobless. It is shameful to see a civil engineer, a teacher, an economist struggling with school dropouts for kazi mtaani jobs. We need loans. I'm sure we have more questions that we can sample. Perhaps we can scroll up as we give our panelists time to dissect this particular issue. Well, let's take a look at also what you're asking on our Twitter platforms in regard to our topic of discussion. This is the unemployment crisis, and just taking a critical look at the labor market. And of course, a lot of questions coming in. Well, as I prepare to take some questions on Twitter, let me just open up this particular question from Wanaoni Michael. Jacqueline, what would you have to say to Michael?
I think the situation is quite common. It's a common story out there now. But it beats purpose for even us, for us to sit here and, belabor all the problems that we face as a country. Perhaps of importance would be to think of strategies of moving forward there. And there's a lot of conversation globally, and particularly focused to Africa on the fourth industrial revolution and what those drivers are. Because we've already recognized, even as an entire panel here, that there's a great mismatch between what is being churned out into the market. So one of the big drivers is, we have issues of data, we have issues of climate change, the role of mobile technology and tech for the fourth industrial revolution. So maybe one of the things that needs to happen, in as much as young people need loans, they also need policies that are put in place that are futuristic, that are going to protect them, and that are going to ensure that they are covered for the next 20 years to come. So we don't keep churning out teachers who don't know how to use laptops or iPads or such equipment, because one of the struggles even we've seen now, the young people are the ones who've been affected in terms of education by COVID. So we need to really think forward and use the data that is being generated by government to actually inform government policies. One of my favorite quotes is, good decisions are based on knowledge and not numbers only. So it's not enough for us to know about 2 million people who've lost their jobs.
Yes.
What does that data mean? What are the sectors and what policies can we put in place?
Very good points there. Thank you, Madam Jacqueline. And like I did mention, we are opening our lines to get your feedback on our important discussion here on the program. And we have some of the viewers already on standby on our Zoom platform. Well, we have Mr. Wilson on Zoom, and a young person who is a businessman and also a content creator. Just walk us through, how did you end up in content creation at a time when you already went and studied for a different line in what you have practiced so far?
For me, I started out as a passion while I was in campus.
Please speak up, I can't hear you.
Hello, I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes, I'm saying it all started up as something for fun in campus, when we'd make guys laugh at parties and everything. Then when I got my first job as a banker, I discovered it wasn't in me to keep doing a routine something, because I'm a creative. I'm a person who wants to think this today and think that tomorrow and the other day. So when I was still doing the banking job is when I quit for job. Then I started my own website. Then after that, I joined Nation Media Group to work as in the digital section as a digital brand manager. And from there, I decided, let me just go and start creating content. Remember, in 2015 is when Facebook had just launched Facebook video. So I saw an opportunity in Facebook video to start telling Kenyan stories. And that's how it started.
Okay, how has been the journey? Are you able to make ends meet, pay your bills?
Yeah. I started doing the short content videos in March 2015, but we only got our first business deal in late September 2016. Mm-hmm. So there was like one and a half years of just doing content, creating the brand. Before now, brands would just believe, we can work with this person to just start selling our products and services. But since then, it's been consistent. And yes, it's possible to make ends meet by just creating content in our country.
And Wilson, walk us through the experiences of the young people you interact with. There's this Sheng language where people say, kuna kutamak, kuna kuhustle. What is the situation among young people you interact with? Have they lost hope? Are they still looking forward to better days ahead?
You see, there are various categories of young people. There's those forward-thinking young people who believes, even if tomorrow is not good, even if today is not good, tomorrow will be better. You understand? Mm-hmm. Then there's another category of just getting comfortable and rolling with the situation and wait for things to unfold. Then they can just run for the opportunities. Then there's another category of young people, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect, of some lazy young people. So there are those guys who will always be saying in the hood, there are no jobs, there are no jobs. But if you would give them a small opportunity even to do maybe something where they can make 100 or 200, you find someone saying, mimi siwezi fanya hiyo job na mimi nataka jobs juu ya nini na nini. So, and in the process of becoming choosy, for me, my attitude has been, if I want an opportunity somewhere, I'm ready to start even as a cleaner, if I want to become the CEO of that company. Because what I'm looking is, let me just get it inside there. Then from there, I can know, okay, here I can talk to this and this person, or I can tell them, hey, by the way, I can do this and this. So for me, it's an attitude, a problem that we have as young people. But yes, there are many young guys who are struggling because of COVID. You know, when COVID came, many guys who are doing jobs, say, in the hospitality industry, the waiters, the bouncers, the DJs, people who are just earning from that industry, most of them now that don't have anything that they can look up to. Mm-hmm. So yes, there are those who have been affected because of COVID effects, but there are those who also have been affected because of maybe the choices that they have made.
And Wilson, you are one of the aggressive people I know. I come a long way with you back in the day. But when you sit back and look at how you're able to set up and kick off your content creation company, talk to us about how easy is it to access loans. Vijana wanasema kupata credit ni ngumu. Banks zinawadharau. How true is this?
I think one thing that I would like to say even before I tell you about that journey is banks need to recognize some industries, especially the entertainment industry, and to know that, yes, money can be made in that field. But I think one of the biggest fears of bank is discipline, because they think, hey, I can give this Musani this enough money to do a song or to do a film or something, and they go eat the money, and then there's not that direct return on investment schedule, especially when it comes to entertainment. But I can tell you this, if you are a young person who wants to create content, you don't need so much. You just need your phone. And if you don't even have a smartphone, you can even borrow from a friend and say, my friend, record me this, let's put it online. Because now, digital media has come to create very great opportunities, especially in terms of talent and entertainment. But I can tell you, once you are doing that and you are creating content, first of all, as a business person, you need to open an account. You need to do the small things that people who have made it in business, like Dr. Alfred Mutua, can tell you that you have to do. So open an account. So if I get 50,000 every month, let me first bank it before I use it. You understand? So tomorrow, if I make 100, I put it, then they see this guy actually gets 100,000 or 50,000 every month. So when now you go to talk to them, it's a different language altogether. Also as young people, what we should do is read a lot of materials, especially on financial literacy, and know if you are setting a business, this is the way you need to be doing it. Even if you are getting 10,000, they can give you that financial assistance if they see you are consistent in what you do.
Thank you, Wilson. Dr. Alfred, what do you make of what you hear from Wilson, who represents a big population of the young people?
I think it's brilliant. I'm agreeing completely. I think his perspectives are brilliant. I like his outlook and the way he looks at life. And the reality is that, yes, there are no jobs. Yes, it's very difficult. Yes, the gap between the rich and the poorer is growing, but you also need to be creative. I registered my first company when I was 19 years old. I was living in a wooden shack, huko Kangwara Ruta satellite, with no cement, with a pit latrine. And I thought, let me do something. And because I was good at writing and I'd finished high school, I was waiting for college and everything, I started publishing a magazine. I called it the Golden Times Magazine. So I went to a friend of when we worked with an aunt of mine, and I persuaded him to print a few copies for me. And then I went and sold them. Then I came and paid him with a small and gave him all the money I had. So he saw there was money coming in, so he was able to print more for me. So that's how I started. So you have to be creative. The cameras that we have nowadays, the smartphones, even the other cameras. You can make movies with them. And even now the media have started using the cameras, and they go a long way. So you don't have to wait until all that investment. When that is said and done also, we need a system whereby banks can appreciate that when somebody is going for a loan, it's because they don't have money. So I come, yes, you see a flow of my businesses. I need to set up something. I need to set up a company or a business or something. Then you tell me, and they say, I want 500,000 shillings. And then you tell me to put in 10% or 20% down. I don't have the money. That's why I came to you. You had that 20% down, or have done something with it. So we need to also realize that our young people do not have much of a base. They're taking care of their aging parents, and they don't have anything. So we need to adjust our rules and regulations in the banking sector.
Thank you,
When
Dr.
I ask the banks, why is it so difficult? They say it's because of the Central Bank of Kenya. So we go back to the bureaucracy. And finally, let me just say this.
Keep it brief,
The
Dr.
ability to spread money, to have money in circulation, is also being constrained by the rules and regulations. So here Wilson has made money, Declan has made money, and at the end of the day, when you have that money, when you put it in the bank, when you're going to withdraw it, they're asking you for 10, 20 documents. Hii ulitoa wapi, ulipewa na nani, unataka kutumia nani. So even circulation of money becomes very difficult. It is your money, they want you to bank it. When you bank it, you cannot access it at will. Bureaucracy in Kenya is what is strangling us.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Alfred Mutua and Wilson, for just shedding some perspectives into this very important discussion. We have many more questions coming in on our Twitter platforms. I can see your question, Gabo Rick, Beverly. I can see your question, Nahashon Adero. We'll be getting back with your questions after this quick commercial break.